Second question. Of course, we will look to the text itself. The text has 4 parts. An introduction, where we read about the vision and the principles of this text. The second part is the core part about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. The third part, very important, is about the means of implementation, the MOIs called. And then fourth part in the text is the follow-up and the review, the evaluation of the process of the implementation of this text. So we have 4 parts. The focus we see in public communication is this, the 17 SDGs. But I want to elaborate a little bit more before we go into detail about this, about the vision and principles. From a UN perspective, the vision and principles behind the 17 goals are maybe even at least as important and maybe even more important than the SDGs themselves. What are those principles behind the text? First of all, this text is a universal one. That means all countries, I said it already, are asked to implement this text in their local, regional, and national authorities. It's not a north-south text anymore. This text applies to Indonesia, to the Netherlands, to Congo, to Belgium. This means we create a level playing field and a framework for international debates, collaboration, and challenges. That's new. That's new from a development cooperation perspective. This is new. Secondly, this text launches a new definition on sustainable development. And this is key. Till now, based upon the Brundtland report, we had sustainable development based upon 3 Ps, the triple bottom line called, the concept was launched by John Elkington, the idea of bringing together planet, people, and profit. I just read the introduction of the text. Those 3 Ps are already in the first line of this text, although profit has been replaced to prosperity, because the concept of John Elkington was a concept for companies. This, of course, is a concept for society. So profit becomes prosperity. What is more important is that this text launched 2 other Ps. And those 2 other Ps are in the second paragraph of the introduction of the text. That is peace and that is partnership. Peace has to do with 3 things in the text. And you see this in SDG 16, because the P of peace is covered by one SDG, the 16. It's about peace, justice, and strong institutions. So 3-leveled SDG. It's a very complex one, the 16, because you have and the aspect of peace and warfare, so how to promote peace in society. That means also how to promote peace in yourself, in our communities, on the work floor. It's not only about war and peace on an international level. It's also about having capacities as per person. Are we skilled to avoid conflicts or to work with conflicts in such a way that we can solve conflicts? Are we conflict solvers? Is this an expertise we have? A skill we learn or not? Very important. Secondly, it's about justice. So it's about fairness in society, in structures, in access to justice also. A very important concept in the text. Think about concepts as fair trade, How to organize an international trade system based on fairness, on ethics. Here enters business ethics. Third concept of peace is strong institutions. This is about governance. This is about good governance, how to organize a system that is transparent, that is accountable, to organize your sustainability. I'm so glad that in the definition now of sustainability, the idea of sustaining structures that are accountable, transparent, is introduced in this text. Sustainability is not only about environmental care, about social inclusion, about creating welfare, it's also about the structure, the legal structure we organize to have a basis to organize those things towards society. So is our foundation, is our future company, will that company be based on fairness, on ethical principles in the management system itself, in the legal form itself? From a negative perspective, topics entering here are, for example, anti-corruption. So that means we have a new P with three important elements: peace, justice, fairness, and governance, a good governance structure. The other P, the fifth P, is the one of partnership. And that P is even more complex. That is the SDG 17. Okay, on logo level, you see only the word partnerships for the goals. But in concreto, when you look at the text, we have three elements in the SDG 17 on partnerships. The first one is indeed working together, trying to strengthen each other by collaboration, locally, internationally. The second element in the SDG 17 is about development cooperation. The 17.2 in the text is about the classical definition on global level of the 0.7% that nation states are asked to be using in international cooperation schemes. The 0.7% of the national budget. That's the word I was searching for. So, for example, what we do in our trainings with companies and organizations is asking, do you spend 0.7% of your budget towards supporting international solidarity? Is your university, is your hogeschool, is this institution being, when you want to be part of this agenda, you need to take this agenda seriously. That means look at the numbers, at the demands. And one of the demands is, do you use at least 0.7% of your budget towards international solidarity, in international support, or not? That's the second one on partnership. The third element in the 17 is the means of implementation. So within the agenda, we have not only 17 SDGs, but we have also 169 targets. Sub-SDGs, as to say. So more or less, when we compare a little bit, more or less 8 to 10 for each SDG. Those targets have two elements. If you look at the text technically, you have the 1 to 3 targets, and you have the ABC targets. The 1 to 3 targets are indeed targets that you can measure where you need to go to. The ABC package of those sub-goals are the means of implementation. So this text is, I think, a good text because it's not only about what to achieve, but also how to achieve this, which means we need to achieve the goals. And in the goal 17, you have 5 concrete elements that you need to achieve the goals. The first one is money. If you want to achieve a sustainability goal, you will need some investment, money. So finance. The second one is technology. This text believes that ICT, that new technology, can help us in solving social, environmental, and other problems. It's very important, that technology can support social problems towards solutions. Thirdly, means of implementation is capacity building, knowledge, training, education. We need good experts that at the same time are open-minded toward other experts of other fields to work together. And nothing that difficult to put a group together of economists, lawyers, people with a medical background, anthropologists, and try to conceive together a project that is in balance with the expectations of each of the different specialists around the table. Very difficult. The challenge of multidisciplinarity and topics towards one wicked problem, because this text is all about wicked problems and how to solve them. The fourth element of the means of implementation is what is said in the text is trade. You need to take into account this text is towards our national governments, not towards us in the first place as stakeholders. So we need to translate trade to something else. What do we do in the translation towards stakeholders? This is about procurement. This is about what we will buy, in which way we will buy products, services to build up our institution. Each table, each chair, each painting, etc., each lighting can be checked from a sustainability perspective. And if you want to really be in line with sustainability, you need to go through that sort of checks and balances. Is every piece of the puzzle helping in the holistic vision of your project? And last but not least, it is told, it is said in the text, it's about, so the fifth element of means of implementation is systemic issues. Maybe it's the most difficult one in the text. So this is about the coherence in your organizational model. For example, when we work with higher education institutions, you have always people on the ground floor that are activists and that want to go for this sustainability agenda. But then you have the directors of the faculties, of the departments, and then you have the board of directors of your institution, and then you have your rector or deacon. And then starts the struggle. Is there leadership on the top of the institution? Is there a willingness to go for this sort of challenging agenda or not? And in which way this leadership is in line, preach what you talk, preach what you do, or do what you preach. Is it in line with the things you see around you in your organization or not? So then starts that difficult struggle in setting up or changing the culture of your organization towards a culture of peacefulness, peace in mind, body, and heart, even there, towards environmental inclusiveness, towards social inclusiveness, towards transparent organization model, etc., etc. And who will decide on which level what? That is the last part of the means of implementation. You will need a very good organized package of vision, mission, strategy that is based upon a decision on top management level, and that is in the daily practices of everybody working or dealing with your organization. And that means also, for example, for higher education institutions, that you need to take also your students in this challenging road, and how they can add new elements. So this is the context or the structure of this agenda. And as you can see, this is the official image of the UN. We call it the postcard model. And I like this one because this is linked with beer. So as a Belgian, you can imagine. But this one, and you ask the question, can we remember, when we put this into a sort of blind folder, can we put in the 17 SDGs? Well, the answer is no, because there are two problems with this image. First of all, the colors doesn't have any meaning. It's not because it's green that it's environmental. Secondly, why 9 is on 9 and 13 is on 13, nobody within the UN can tell me. So the logic of the 1 to the 2 and the 3, etc., is not there. It's a political agreement. So that means we struggled with a lot of institutions around the world how to structure this text. And I give you the result of the work we did on a global scale as a mnemotechnical help. So what you see here is what we call the Sdg Wedding Cake. And the Sdg Wedding Cake is built on the 5 Ps. The planet one, the people one, the society, the peace one as necessity to organize your society, and the prosperity one based upon your natural resources, based upon a peaceful society and the knowledge of your people, you build your economy. That's the Sdg Wedding Cake. The 5th P is the one of partnership, and that's a transversal one. It's about working together and on each of those levels and cross-versal between planet and profit and prosperity and etc. etc. Okay? So this people can remember the wedding cake. Next was the difficult exercise on linking the SDGs to the wedding cake. Okay, partnership is the 17. We agree on a global scale, no problem. 16 SDG is peace. We agree on a global level, no problem. Problem is that in the text here, there is no part to say if we can link the SDGs to the 5 Ps, or whether if we do, how to do it. It's not mentioned. So what we did is an international brainstorm, and the result is this. So we have 5 SDGs linked with planet. That means the 6 of water management, the 12 of responsible consumption and production, the 13 of climate change, the 14 of life below water, the oceans, and your Holland colleague Blad was in all our newspapers last week, starting the ocean cleanup, and 15 biodiversity. The second line is the one of the social links, and here you see more or less a logic element, because the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5 are the topics also mentioned already in the Millennium Development Goals. Poverty, hunger. This one is a difficult one because in this hunger SDG, you have the whole food discussion and the whole agricultural discussion also. So how to feed the world, which agricultural models we will choose for the future, from the classical ones to ecological ones, bio and urban farming, for example, or vertical farming models. So this could also be prosperity, because this is an economic model you need to create based upon agricultural principles. Then you have well-being and health, quality education and lifelong learning, and gender equality. And last but not least, 5 on the prosperity, 7 renewable energy, 8 decent work, decent growth should be better, decent work and economic growth, innovation, infrastructure and industrialization, avoiding inequalities in regions and between people, and sustainability for local authorities, communities, etc. So this is what we call the Sdg Wedding Cake. After a training of 1 hour, people can remember this one. Not the postcard. Sorry, UN, not the postcard. What is important is when you want to introduce the SDGs as startup in your organization, do the exercise to make the link between the SDGs and the wedding cake. Because, for example, if you are indeed in urban farming, for example, it's possible that the two will be part of your prosperity line. So please use it in a flexible way. This is not a new Bible. This is not a new dogma. This is about an educational model to structure the SDGs. And if you will Google structuring the SDGs, you will find more or less 100 of those models already. But most of them are based upon this structure.